The small town of Willowville, nestled deep in the autumnal woods, was renowned for its picturesque Halloween celebrations. On this night, the town transformed into a spectacle of colors and costumes. Children in eerie disguises roamed from door to door, collecting candy, while the adults donned terrifying creatures and reveled in exuberant Halloween parties. Yet even amidst the merriment, there was one story the people of Willowville would never forget: the curse of the lost trick-or-treater. Many years ago, on a dark and stormy Halloween night, a young boy named Caleb ventured alone through the streets of Willowville. He was dressed in a pumpkin costume adorned with sinister carvings, and his eyes sparkled with excitement. Caleb aimed to collect as many sweets as possible, and nothing could deter him. However, as night fell, the clouds darkened, and an ominous storm broke loose. Caleb lost his way and found himself in the dense woods that bordered the town. Raindrops pelted his costume, and the wind howled menacingly. Desperate and hungry, he wandered among the trees, and his joyful laughter turned into desperate cries for help. Yet it seemed no one heard his pleas for assistance, and the forest swallowed his cries. Caleb eventually vanished without a trace, and his parents searched in vain. The entire town joined in the search, but there was no sign of the boy. Locals began to believe he had been kidnapped by an ancient, malevolent spirit of the woods that roamed during Halloween, a spirit known as the Jack-o'-Woods Ghost, an entity that abducted children who ventured too far into the forest. The name Jack-o'-Woods Ghost instilled fear and dread in Willowville. Years passed, and the legend of Caleb turned into a spine-tingling Halloween story. Parents recounted it to their children, warning them to stay close to the well-lit streets of the town. People shared stories on dark nights of eerie lights appearing in the forest, distant cries, and ghostly figures moving in the shadows. On this Halloween, a new trick-or-treater named Lily followed in the footsteps of the vanished Caleb. She was a courageous girl, wearing a pumpkin costume as sinister as Caleb's. Her ambition was to collect more sweets than anyone else. Unfazed by the ominous tales and the warnings of the adults, she ventured deep into the woods. The city lights receded behind her, and the darkness of the trees enveloped her. As she wandered among the trees, she heard a distant, haunting laughter. It sounded eerie and pursued her like an echo. Suddenly, the trees appeared to come to life, their branches reaching out as if trying to grasp her. Lily pulled her cloak tightly around her and quickened her pace. The darkness grew thicker, and the ghostly lights shimmering through the trees became more numerous. Then, she heard a sinister voice whispering, "Caleb, you are not alone." She froze in terror as the trees seemed to whisper, the wind carrying the words of the forest spirit. The night's silence was shattered by a chilling giggle. Lily ran for her life, desperately searching for a way out of this nightmare. The forest seemed to grow denser, and the trees threatened to engulf her. The eerie lights and unsettling sounds pursued her. Finally, she reached the forest's edge and stumbled breathlessly out of the shadowy trees. Her pumpkin costume was torn and soiled, and she could still hear the faint giggles of the forest spirit. Upon returning to the town, she stammered the story of the eerie forest spirit and the living trees, yet no one wanted to believe her. The adults chalked it up to childish imagination, and the children laughed at her tale. Nonetheless, Lily knew she had narrowly escaped the curse of the lost trick-or-treater. The legend of Caleb and the Jack-o'-Woods Ghost came to life in Willowville, and no one dared venture too far into the woods on Halloween night. The curse endured, and the story was passed down from generation to generation to remind the children of Willowville to beware the shadows of the forest on this eerie night. The unveiling of the curse. Lily had survived the eerie ordeal in the woods on that fateful Halloween night, but the experience had left her deeply shaken. She couldn't erase the disturbing whispers of the forest spirit or the ghostly laughter from her mind. The people of Willowville continued to dismiss her story as the vivid imagination of a child. As the years passed, Lily grew into a young woman. The curse of the lost trick-or-treater still loomed large over the town. Halloween was celebrated with fervor, but everyone remained cautious, especially when it came to the forest at the town's edge. On one particular Halloween, the townsfolk organized an elaborate Halloween festival. The centerpiece was a haunted house, adorned with ghoulish decorations and manned by volunteers in spine-chilling costumes. Lily, now a teenager, was intrigued by the haunted house, and she decided to explore its depths. The haunted house was designed to terrify. Cobwebs hung from the corners, skeletons dangled from the ceiling, and eerie sound effects echoed through the corridors. As Lily ventured deeper into the labyrinthine rooms, she noticed an uncanny resemblance between the decorations and the things she had seen and heard in the forest that night years ago. The ghastly lights, the distant cries, and even the peculiar giggles seemed to mirror her encounter with the Jacko Woods ghost. It sent shivers down her spine, but she brushed it off as mere coincidence. She was determined to enjoy the festivities of Halloween like any other teenager. As she continued her journey through the haunted house, the horror intensified. Lily's heart raced, and her footsteps echoed through the dimly lit corridors. Suddenly, she found herself in a room filled with mirrors, each one reflecting her image. But in one of the mirrors, she saw something that sent her into a state of panic. Reflected in the glass was not her own face, but that of a young boy in a tattered pumpkin costume. It was Caleb, the lost trick-or-treater, staring back at her with hollow, empty eyes. The room grew darker, and the air grew heavy with an unsettling chill. Lily tried to flee, but the mirrors seemed to multiply, each one showing Caleb's haunting image. The reflections distorted, contorted, and seemed to reach out to her. Lily screamed as the room appeared to close in on her, the nightmare becoming all too real. She stumbled backward, crashing through the door behind her. Gasping for breath, she found herself back in the festival, where bewildered onlookers rushed to her side. She told them what had transpired inside the haunted house, about the mirrors and the ghostly reflection of Caleb. But the townsfolk were skeptical, dismissing it as an elaborate part of the Halloween attraction. No one believed her story, and they assumed it was a well-executed scare tactic. Lily, however, was convinced that the curse of the lost trick-or-treater was far from over. She felt that the Jacko Woods ghost was still watching, still haunting Willowville on Halloween night. Haunted by her experiences, Lily became determined to uncover the truth behind the curse. She embarked on a quest to research the town's history, hoping to find answers about Caleb's disappearance and the origins of the Jacko Woods ghost. Lily's relentless pursuit of the truth would lead her down a path that would unearth long-buried secrets and perhaps finally lift the curse of the lost trick-or-treater from Willowville. Lily's quest to uncover the truth behind the curse of the lost trick-or-treater took her on a journey deep into the history of Willowville. She spent countless hours poring over dusty old books, examining faded photographs, and listening to the whispered tales of the town's elders. As she delved deeper into the past, she began to piece together a chilling narrative. It became clear that the story of Caleb was not an isolated incident. There were other accounts of children who had mysteriously vanished on Halloween night throughout Willowville's history. These cases were never properly investigated, and the townsfolk always attributed them to the curse, fearing that delving too deep would invite the wrath of the Jacko Woods ghost. Lily's research led her to a hidden corner of the town library, where she stumbled upon a journal from a long-forgotten historian named Enoch Pendleton. Within the pages of the journal, she discovered an account of a series of mysterious occurrences dating back to the founding of Willowville. According to Pendleton's journal, the town was established in the late 18th century by a group of settlers who had fled a troubled past. They had chosen the location for its natural beauty, but had also stumbled upon a hidden glade deep within the woods, a glade with a dark history of its own. In the center of this glade stood a gnarled, ancient oak tree. Pendleton described how the settlers had been both fascinated and fearful of the tree, believing it to be a dwelling place for malevolent spirits. The journal went on to detail a series of strange events that occurred in the glade on Halloween night, culminating in the unexplained disappearance of one of the settlers' children, a boy named Ezekiel. The settlers, believing that their presence had angered the spirits, quickly abandoned the glade and buried the truth in the annals of time. Lily was convinced that the answer to the curse lay in that cursed glade. With determination in her heart and newfound knowledge as her guide, she gathered a group of courageous townsfolk who were willing to explore the dark heart of Willowville. As Halloween night approached, they ventured into the woods and made their way to the glade where the ancient oak tree still stood, its gnarled branches stretching toward the sky. It was a moonless night, and the forest was shrouded in an eerie stillness. As they reached the glade, a sense of foreboding washed over them. In the shadow of the ancient oak, they discovered an old weathered tombstone. It bore the name Ezekiel, and it had been concealed for centuries beneath fallen leaves and overgrown vines. It was a solemn marker of the child who had disappeared so long ago. Lily and the townsfolk carefully unearthed the area around the tombstone. They soon uncovered a hidden cavity beneath it. Inside, they found a small, dusty wooden box. With trembling hands, Lily opened the box to reveal a collection of letters and journal entries from the early settlers. These documents chronicled their experiences in the glade, revealing their growing fear of the ancient oak tree and the strange occurrences that plagued them each Halloween. One entry described how they had conducted a ritual to appease the spirits. As the townsfolk began to recite the ancient words written in the journal, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The gnarled branches of the oak tree seemed to reach out toward the group, their shadowy forms taking on an otherworldly presence. The townsfolk quickly abandoned their efforts, but it was too late. The spirit of the glade had been awakened, and its curse could no longer be denied. The once secret knowledge had been uncovered, and now the ancient oak tree thirsted for retribution. As the cursed tree's branches closed in around them, Lily and the townsfolk realized the gravity of their discovery. The Jacko Woods ghost was not a mere legend, but a vengeful entity bound to the glade, seeking retribution for the transgressions of the past. The spirit of the glade manifested before them, its form a swirling vortex of dark energy. It seemed to reach out to claim those who had dared to uncover its secrets. The townsfolk were paralyzed by fear, unable to escape the relentless grasp of the curse. The curse of the lost trick-or-treater was no longer confined to the past. It had resurfaced with a malevolent force, and Willowville stood on the precipice of its darkest Halloween night. And now, the fate of the town hung in the balance, with an open ending awaiting the outcome of Lily's brave quest to unravel the curse and confront the malevolent entity that had haunted the town for centuries.